following is a feature presentation of the Replay Sports Channel, the home for great games. This telecast is copyrighted by the WFL for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the WFL's consent is prohibited.
This episode of the Replay Sports Channel is brought to you by Royal Retros, your ultimate one-stop shop representing the teams of the past. Head over to Royal Retros today. Use the code REPLAY to get 10% off your order. The link will be provided in the show's description. Hello again, football fans. Glenn Walker joining you here from the Replay Sports Channel studios, and welcome to another exciting episode of WFL Inside Access. Our crew will be providing a comprehensive preview of the upcoming WFL Week 10 matchups. We've done all the homework for you to help you prepare for this Sunday's games, recent performances, historical head-to-head results for the teams across both the early and late game windows. Our analysts also highlight specific player performances, such as standout passing and rushing yards, alongside team-specific strengths like league-leading defenses or struggling offenses. Accept no substitute. Inside Access starts now.
WFL schedule for November 9th, 2025. You might legitimately think there's been some sort of glitch in the Matrix.
Oh, definitely. It's wild.
Right, because almost every single game this weekend is an exact, perfectly mirrored rematch of Week 5.
Yeah.
So we aren't just looking at a standard week of football here. We are looking at, honestly, a league-wide psychological experiment.
That's a great way to put it.
Welcome to our latest deep dive, where you and I are going to tear through a massive stack of sources previewing Week 10. And our mission today, figuring out what happens when every single team in the league gets a do-over.
It's just an incredible quirk in the schedule. And, it perfectly highlights the most ruthless reality of professional football, which is adaptation.
Yeah.
Because Week 5 of the season, that was about setting a baseline. Teams put their schemes on tape, they showed their true colors, and frankly, some of them got completely exposed.
Oh, absolutely exposed.
Right. But Week 10... this is the ultimate laboratory for football evolution. It's a test of who actually learned from their mistakes and who is just doomed to repeat them.
Well, before we really get into the weeds, just a quick bit of housekeeping so you aren't searching the channels for your favorite squad. Las Vegas, who are sitting pretty at 6-2.
Very pretty.
Yeah. Plus Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, who are currently struggling at 0-8, and Tampa Bay at 3-5. They are all on a bye week, so you won't see them on the field.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting right at the top of the standings.
Yeah.
Because we have two absolute heavyweight bloodbaths from Week 5 getting sequels. I'm looking straight at Chicago, who are 7-1, heading into St. Louis to face a 6-2 squad.
Oh, man. If you are St. Louis, that Week 5 tape is practically a horror movie. You just want to burn it.
It was a total nightmare. I mean, Chicago won that game 48-17.
Yeah.
And they did it in incredibly heavy wins.
That was the craziest part.
Seriously. Baker Mayfield was named MVP after somehow throwing 4 touchdowns in a literal gale. Jahmyr Gibbs carved them up for 111 rushing yards.
Right. And you even had Cameron Dicker casually booting a 58-yard field goal through the wind like it was just nothing.
It made no sense. And meanwhile, St. Louis looked totally lost.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa was sacked 4 times.
Exactly.
Their offense just completely stalled out. I mean, their only second half points came from the defense. That Jesse Bates 45-yard interception return.
Well, the elements absolutely played a factor, sure. But let's talk about the mechanics of why it was a blowout. Chicago's offensive line just physically displaced the St. Louis front.
Yeah, they really did.
When the wind forces you to run the ball, and the opposing defensive line knows it, but they still can't stop Jahmyr Gibbs, that is demoralizing.
Totally.
And then when St. Louis tried to answer, Chicago's pass rush just pinned their ears back. To a panic because, well, the pocket collapsed instantly.
But look at where we are now, right? Chicago is rolling on a 5-game winning streak.
Yep.
They hold the league's best offense, churning out 401.4 yards per game. But honestly, they looked a little mortal last week.
They did. They barely survived Detroit. 33-29. They literally needed a clutch Mayfield to Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown and a massive 48-yard fumble returned by Brooks just to escape.
Right. And then you look at St. Louis, they've won 3 in a row.
Yeah?
And last week, they absolutely demolished Pittsburgh, 47-27. Tagovailoa didn't just find a new gear, he found a whole new transmission.
I mean, 6 touchdowns.
Exactly. 3 to Devonta Smith, plus huge games from Sam Laporta and Led McConkey.
Which brings up a thought. Are rematches just a psychological trap for the team that won the first time?
How do you mean?
Like a movie sequel where the villain already knows the hero's weakness? Does Chicago come in overconfident while St. Louis already knows exactly what went wrong?
That's the exact danger here. Because St. Louis hasn't just improved, they've fundamentally shifted their scheme.
Okay.
They are getting the ball out of Tua's hands in fractions of a second now. They're using these quick slants to Smith and Laporta to completely neutralize the opposing pass rush.
Wow.
Yeah, when you lose 48-17, it forces a complete teardown of your game plan. St. Louis isn't bringing the same offense that Chicago destroyed in Week 5. They've evolved.
I love that. Well, speaking of complete tactical overhauls, Atlanta, who are sitting at 5-3, is visiting Birmingham, who are 7-1.
This is a great one.
Now, in Week 5, Birmingham took Atlanta behind the woodshed. They won 41-13. Chula Hubbard was just a battering ram. He picked up 103 yards and 3 touchdowns.
He was unstoppable.
And then Bo Nix hit Tucker Kraft for a 58-yard strike just to, twist the knife. Birmingham wants to grind you down, and they did exactly that.
And Birmingham's formula hasn't changed at all because it works perfectly.
Right.
They just beat Tampa Bay 26-17. Bo Nix had a passing and a rushing touchdown, and Cairo Santos systematically kicked 4 field goals to just keep the game out of reach.
Yeah, they just suffocated him.
Tactically, Birmingham acts like a funnel. They boast the league's best run defense, allowing an insane 71.3 yards per game.
That's just wild.
It is. They intentionally clog the interior gaps, and that forces your running backs outside where their linebackers just feast. They force you to be one-dimensional.
But this is where the tactical contrast gets so fun for this rematch. Because Atlanta, they don't care about the run anymore.
No, they don't.
They are on a 3-game winning streak, specifically because they've decided to just air it out. Last week against Memphis, Joe Burrow looked like he was playing a video game on easy mode.
Seriously?
He threw for 390 yards and 4 touchdowns, linking up effortlessly with Puka Nacua and CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
So if Birmingham's entire defensive philosophy is designed to force you to pass, what happens when Atlanta's essentially saying, joke's on you, we only want to pass anyway?
What's fascinating here is how an elite run defense handles a suddenly nuclear passing attack.
Right.
Because in Week 5, Birmingham dictated the terms of engagement. They stopped the run and forced Atlanta into obvious passing downs where they could just blitz. But if Joe Burrow comes out operating from the shotgun, getting the ball to Lamb and Nacua in space on early downs, Birmingham's run defense becomes completely irrelevant.
Wow.
You can't stop the run if the opposing team never bothers to hand the ball off.
That perfectly transitions us into our next bracket of games.
Yeah.
We're moving from the heavyweights into matchups defined by pure, extreme statistical polarities.
I love these games.
Right. You've got San Antonio at 3-4 taking on Memphis, who are 1-7. Just listen to the styles here. San Antonio is airing it out for a league best 290.4 passing yards per game.
Right.
Memphis, meanwhile, refuses to put the ball in the air. They rely on a ground and pound strategy that gives them the league's best rushing offense at 144.8 yards per game.
It is an absolute clash of philosophies. You've got time of possession versus quick strikes.
Exactly.
And in Week 5, it produced a thriller. San Antonio managed to pull out a 40-34 win in overtime. Jared Goff was just dealing, throwing 4 touchdowns, capped off by that 31-yard OT winner to Tyler Boyd.
Right. But Memphis was a few bounces away from winning that game.
Oh, totally.
Lamar Jackson threw for 326 yards and ran for another 100. It literally took 2 back-breaking Memphis fumbles to doom them.
Yeah, those fumbles were brutal.
The problem is, as we look at the rematch, both of these teams are seriously reeling. San Antonio has dropped 3 straight.
Yep.
Last week, they blew a 21-10 halftime lead to Tampa Bay, losing 30-21, even with linebacker Jordan Love getting them a pick 6.
Right.
And to make matters worse, their pass rush just evaporated because they lost newly acquired defensive end Khalil Mack to injury.
Yeah, that injury is huge, but I have to push back a little on combining their struggles, though.
Oh, really? How so?
Yes, they're both losing, but for completely different tactical reasons. San Antonio's issue is stamina and late game adjustments. They blow leads.
Right, okay.
Memphis's issue is ball security and consistency. I mean, they lost 31-17 to Atlanta last week, despite early fireworks where Jackson scored passing to Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, that started off so well.
Right. Memphis actually controls the clock well with that elite rushing attack. But if you fumble the ball against a team like San Antonio that can score in 3 plays, your time of possession advantage vanishes instantly.
That makes total sense. And speaking of extreme contrast dictating the game, let's look at Baltimore, who are 5-3, visiting DC, who are 3-5.
Okay.
Baltimore's defense is hunting quarterbacks right now. They lead the league with 33 sacks.
Which is an insane number.
Right. And DC, on the other hand, has the WFL's worst red zone offense, converting only 50% of the time.
Yeah, and if you look at the mechanics of their Week 5 matchup, Baltimore's defense essentially compressed the field.
Yeah, they won 40-28.
Exactly. Mike Pennell Jr. took MVP honors, Joshua Carty kicked 3 field goals, and Jimmy Ward took a 37-yard pick-6 to the house.
Oh, man.
When you have a defense that generates that much pressure, it makes operating in the red zone, where the windows are already incredibly tight, practically impossible for the offense.
And Baltimore is absolutely rolling with that formula. They're on a 2-game streak, having just beaten New Jersey 23-20 behind a vintage Saquon Barkley game where he went off for 196 rushing yards.
It was incredible.
But here's the wild card. DC just pulled off a miracle. They upset Philadelphia 18-12.
Right.
And they did it purely on defense. They forced 5 turnovers, highlighted by a massive 61-yard fumble return by rookie Edgin Cooper. So what does this all mean? How does a team with an abysmal red zone offense beat top-tier teams?
By entirely bypassing the red zone.
Wait, really?
Yeah. If your offense can't score inside the 20-yard line, your defense has to score from the 40. That's what DC did against Philly.
Oh, wow.
But here's the problem with that. Relying on 5 turnovers is completely unsustainable. Baltimore isn't going to give you those opportunities.
Right.
When you have Saquon Barkley chewing up the clock and moving the chains, you limit the overall number of possessions in the game. DC's defense won't be on the field long enough to generate those lucky bounces, and Baltimore's pass rush is going to make sure DC's offense rarely even sees the red zone.
Which brings us to my absolute favorite part of the slate.
Oh, boy.
If defense can miraculously win games for struggling teams, what happens when the most desperate teams at the bottom of the barrel finally find a spark?
Right.
Welcome to the Desperation Bowl. Let's start with Los Angeles, sitting at 1-7, heading to Denver, who are 4-4. In Week 5, Denver won this 30-24.
Yep.
Geno Smith was just dropping bombs.
Yeah.
He threw for 465 yards, and Chase McLaughlin hit a walk-off 50-yard field goal.
It was a great finish.
And LA's Dak Prescott, by comparison, looked completely stuck in the mud with only 199 yards.
But the dynamic in Los Angeles has completely inverted.
Yeah.
They just snapped an agonizing 6-game losing streak by pulling off a 19-12 upset over Arizona. And the crazy part, the offense didn't even do much.
Right.
They had Russell Wilson under center, and he just conservatively managed the game.
I am so glad you brought that up because I need you to explain this to me. Los Angeles has the worst pass defense in the entire league.
By far.
They give up 316.5 yards per game through the air. Literally any quarterback can carve them up. Yet, last week against Arizona, they sacked Aaron Rodgers 10 times.
10 times. It's unbelievable.
How does a team with a historically bad secondary suddenly record 10 sacks against a future Hall of Famer? Did LA figure out a cheat code?
They didn't find a cheat code. They found a breaking point.
Okay.
When your secondary is giving up 300 yards a game in traditional zone coverage, you eventually have to just throw the playbook out.
Right.
What LA did was abandon those safe coverages, put their cornerbacks on islands, and brought the house. They used exotic zero blitz packages, intentionally overloading the offensive line.
Wow.
They basically told Rodgers, we know you can beat our corners, but we are going to hit you before the receivers finish their routes. It was pure tactical aggression born of desperation.
This raises an important question. Even if LA brings that same zero blitz aggression, will it work against Denver? Because Denver just showed they don't even need to drop back to pass. Last week, in a 45-31 loss to Las Vegas, a game where Vegas's Jalen Hurts just went completely wild. By the way, Denver just handed the ball to Derrick Henry.
Yeah, they did.
Henry ran for 135 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Right.
If LA sells out to blitz the quarterback, Derrick Henry is going to break one tackle, and suddenly there is no one between him and the end zone.
Exactly. Blitzing leaves you incredibly vulnerable to the run. It's a massive risk.
Let's keep looking at these desperate matchups. New York, at 1-6, visits New Jersey, who are 5-3. I have to be honest with you, the stats for New York are grim.
Very grim.
They have lost 6 straight games. They have the absolute worst overall offense in the WFL, managing a pathetic 239.1 yards per game, and the worst pass offense at just 172.6 yards per game.
Ouch.
And they're walking into a trap because New Jersey has the league's best pass defense, allowing only 194.4 yards per game.
And we already saw exactly how that mismatch plays out.
Yeah.
In week 5, New Jersey pitched a 31-0 shutout. Tyrone Tracy Jr. rushed for 3 touchdowns, and New Jersey's secondary completely suffocated the New York receivers. They just squeezed the life out of that offense.
And New York hasn't figured anything out since then.
Right.
They recently lost to Philly 37-16, despite Bryce Young somehow managing to find Malik Neighbors for 2 touchdowns.
Right.
New Jersey, meanwhile, just narrowly lost a tough game to Baltimore 23-20, even with Justin Herbert putting together a really solid, efficient game.
Yeah, Herbert looked good.
Then, keeping with this theme of struggling offenses, we have Cleveland at 2-5 visiting Detroit, who are 1-7. Cleveland has the WFL's worst rushing offense, averaging a measly 53.6 yards per game on the ground.
Yeah.
But back in week 5, they beat Detroit 26-14, completely leaning on Sam Darnold throwing 2 touchdowns to DJ Moore.
You have to look at the context of Detroit right now, though. Yes, they are on a 2-game skid, but they are playing with fire. They almost took down a powerhouse Chicago team last week, falling just short 33-29.
Oh, that's right.
Brock Purdy was slinging it. He threw for 395 yards, and Josh Palmer erupted for 258 receiving yards.
Wow.
Detroit might be 1-7, but offensively they are incredibly dangerous.
But Cleveland seems to have their number. Cleveland recently beat Pittsburgh 24-10.
True.
Darnold took home MVP honors again, and DJ Moore put up 181 yards.
Yeah.
It feels like Detroit is ready to explode, but Cleveland's passing attack just matches up perfectly against Detroit's secondary coverages.
It all comes down to specific matchups and tendencies, and honestly, that is the perfect bridge to the culmination of this week's slate.
You read my mind. We have to finish out this deep dive with the Sunday night game.
Yes, we do.
This is where 2 legitimate contenders collide, and because of this scheduling quirk, they are armed with incredibly granular data on each other's tendencies. We have San Diego, who are 6-1, traveling to Arizona, who are 6-2.
This is going to be amazing.
Let's rewind to week 5. Arizona won this matchup 37-23. Bijan Robinson was the unquestioned MVP, rushing for 202 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He was a machine.
And Aaron Rodgers was clinical, throwing for 329 yards and finding Darnell Mooney twice. San Diego actually had the lead at halftime, but they crumbled under pressure. They turned the ball over twice late in the game, with Josh Allen throwing 2 costly interceptions.
But look at the adjustments San Diego has made since that collapse.
Okay.
They just pulled off a massive statement win, upsetting Las Vegas 20-15. Josh Allen was decisive, hitting T. Higgins for the game winner.
Yep.
And while he did that, the San Diego defense completely locked down Vegas, ensuring Jalen Hurts and Travis Kelce couldn't generate any late momentum.
The underlying stats for San Diego right now are genuinely mind-blowing.
Let's hear them.
They have built an absolute fortress around the football. Their offensive line has allowed a league-best 5 sacks all season.
5.
5
Right.
all year. And they've only committed 4 turnovers all year.
That's incredible discipline.
Defensively, they hold the 3rd best run defense, giving up just 83.7 yards per game, and they've only allowed 3 rushing touchdowns all season long.
Now flip over to Arizona. They are reeling from getting upset by Los Angeles 19-12.
Right, the 10 sacks game.
Exactly. As we discussed, their offensive line completely failed to pick up the blitz, allowing Aaron Rodgers to be sacked 10 times. They couldn't finish drives, having to repeatedly settle for Eddie Pinheiro field goals.
Oh.
Statistically, Arizona is built to win through the air. They boast the 4th best offense and the 4th best pass defense. But their glaring weakness, they have the 14th ranked run defense.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We're looking at the ultimate paradox in the trenches.
How so?
Arizona's Bijan Robinson ran for 202 yards against San Diego in Week 5. But San Diego's run defense only gives up about 80 yards a game and has only allowed 3 rushing touchdowns all year.
Right.
Something has to give. Do you think Arizona caught them with a specific outside zone blocking scheme in Week 5 that San Diego has since fixed? Or does Bijan just have their number?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is the defining question of the game. Can Arizona scheme up proper protection for Aaron Rodgers against a disciplined San Diego front, especially after giving up 10 sacks to a much worse defense last week?
Yeah.
And offensively, can Josh Allen trust his reads and avoid the forced throws that led to those interceptions in Week 5? This game isn't just about winning a week, it's a litmus test for championship viability.
Exactly.
It's about proving your coaching staff can diagnose a loss and engineer a solution.
I couldn't agree more. This whole slate of rematches really proves that the WFL season is effectively two completely separate seasons. There is the season before there's tape on you and the season after.
Yeah.
Week 10 is the ultimate showcase of the after. It's a fascinating psychological and tactical puzzle for us to watch unfold.
It really is. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you watch these games this weekend.
Let's hear it.
When a team completely changes their identity mid-season, like LA suddenly generating 10 sacks by abandoning traditional coverage, or St. Louis suddenly finding a 6-touchdown passing gear to avoid getting sacked, does the historical data from that Week 5 matchup even matter anymore?
Oh, wow.
When you step on the field for the rematch, are you actually playing the same team, or are you essentially playing a ghost of who that team used to be?
Playing a ghost of who they used to be. I absolutely love that framing. So as you are settling in to watch this massive slate of Week 10 rematches, keep your eyes on the tactical adjustments, keep questioning the stats, watch how these offensive and defensive lines counter each other, and, well, look out for those ghosts. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Enjoy the games.
You've been listening. You've been listening to WFL Inside Access Week 10 Preview. The WFL utilizes real NFL players and the advanced simulation capabilities of DK Sports Action PC Football. The WFL strives to create a thrilling, strategic, and statistically innovative rich football environment that balances realism with innovation. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the Replay Sports channel. Our next broadcast will be Sunday Night Football, the San Diego Fleet taking on the Arizona Rattlers. Thank you once again for joining us. See you again next time.